Welcome, everybody, to another edition of S.T.A.R.S Radio, your short track auto racing source for production of this radio network for Racers Reunion Radio. With Jeff, we're going to open tonight's show with heavy hearts. Tonight's show is going to be dedicated to a young lady, just 15 years old, attempting to run her very first race. Miss Niokoa Johnson lost her life racing this past weekend at Bubba Speedway in Florida. Jeff, you know, we hate to hear anytime we lose a racer, especially someone so young who's just getting their racing career started. So we're going to dedicate tonight's show to that, and our show is going to talk about safety in racing. And, you know, folks, we've had these shows in the past and talked about various different safety issues and factors that need to be brought into your racing career. But we felt that, you know, in light of what just happened, that we needed to have another safety-related show. So we're going to have Frank Kimmell on here and talk a little bit about the safety procedures that you had to go through to run the Kimmell Street Stock Series. It was very, very in-depth. One of the best safety technical inspections I've ever seen anybody do. And we're also going to have Randy Lajoie on and talk a little bit about containment seats and seat safety and mounting and belts and stuff of that nature. So, Jeff, I think we're going to have a great show for everybody tonight.
Yeah, I think so, Jerry. Unfortunately, like you said, every time something like this happens, we talk about this, and of course, you know my feeling on it. You can never be too safe, and being racers, we've all tended to take the easy way out, not look at things because of expense, where safety's related, and hopefully someday somehow we can turn that situation around so that we don't have these kinds of disasters happen. This is so sad, it's so unfortunate, and I'm really sorry for the family of this young lady.
It is, you know, and I had an opportunity to talk to her father, Richard, today, and talk to him a little bit about her racing and how excited she was, and you know, it's just one of them unfortunate things. She was on a qualifying lap, hadn't even actually took the green flag for an actual race. So you really hate to hear that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about her later in the show. And like I said, we're going to talk to Frank. We did have some racing that happened at several of the other racetracks, but I'm waiting on the results to come up here on my computer. I had some computer issues prior to the start of the show, and fortunately we know how to get around that, right, Jeff?
Yeah, we can always rely on the trusty old cell phone, right, Jerry?
Yeah, that's right, sir. Mm-hmm. So, and for our new listeners tonight, we do thank you for tuning in and listening to the show. And I'm in South Congaree, South Carolina, which is just outside of Columbia, and Jeff is in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We had two different locations there to be able to make this work. Jeff, when you get an opportunity, I'd like you to tell our listeners how to go to our chat room. And folks, what we do is we have a chat room where you can go in there if you're a member, and you can kind of follow along with some of our regulars in there to get in there and they talk about different things. Jeff, are you at a point where you can explain that to our listeners tonight?
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. I'm glad to. The main website is racersreunion.com, and when you land on the site, you can see Inner Stock Car site or Inner Drag Racing site. There are two social networks there. Most of our folks for this show are on the Stock Car site, or will log in there to the Stock Car site. Later on tonight, we have a drag racing show. There'll be a lot of folks in that chat room. But when you click on Inner Stock Car Racers Reunion, and just on the right side near the top, near the navigation, there's a place to sign up or sign in. If you haven't created a login, just click sign up and create a login, and you can click on chat from the navigation bar, or down the bottom part of the screen there's a little gray bar with the chat menu on it. You can pop it up there and chat with the other folks online. But just go to racersreunion.com, click on the Inner Stock Car site, and create a login, and come join us in the chat room.
There you go, folks. Some lot of interesting conversations in there in our chat room, and we do appreciate everybody who comes and listens to the show. hopefully we got a lot of people listening tonight, Jeff, because our show being about safety-related issue. You know, and me and Jeff both being former racers and working on race cars and been around my whole life. Now, you know, in some of our years of wisdom that we've gained, we cannot stress the importance of safety. You know, me personally, I've been at the racetrack when 2 people passed away due to a racing incident, and it's not something you want to be around, especially when maybe a safety item would have prevented that. And that's why we want to go over these things and talk to our 2 guests tonight. And, you know, you don't get no better than Frank Kimmell and Randy Lajoie, another 2 guys who've got, you know, multiple years of racing and championships between them. And both of them, you know, work outside of the actual driving chores. And Frank with a series and Randy, with, of course, with his Lajoie seats. That's why we want to do this show tonight, to stress this. I can remember, Jeff, back in my days, that there was probably times that I shouldn't have been in a race car with some of the safety stuff that was there. I shouldn't have let other race car drivers that I was working with get in a race car. How about you?
Absolutely true, Jerry. I had an accident once, and I got a quick lesson about seats and seat safety when I got hit from the left side and then knocked into the guardrail on the right side, and didn't realize it so much until after I'd gotten out of the car. But my seat had spread apart. It was at least 6 inches wider where it went around my body after the accident than before, which just shows you how much your belts can stretch, how much the seat can move, and that kind of thing. And you know, that's one instance. There are all kinds of drivers out there running on seat belts that are out of date, riding without head and neck restraints. And, you know, I'm on the side here, Jerry, and a lot of people don't like hearing this, but I think head and neck restraints should be mandatory at every level of racing.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
There should be no entry level in racing where someone can race without a head and neck restraint and a proper seat. With one of the things that we've learned by having Randy Lajoie, Trevor Ashline, people like that on the show, is talking about the proper mounting of seat belts. You can have the best seat belts in the world, but if they're not mounted correctly, they're not going to do the job. So, you know, this is a subject we've been over and over and over and over many times, and you're absolutely right. I've been in a race car many times when I shouldn't have been, and that happens every day, unfortunately.
It is, and you know, I've talked about this before, that, you know, I would love to see head and neck restraints be mandatory everywhere you go. And, you know, because this issue's come up several times now. You know, remember we lost a young kid last year down in Florida that was racing for the same type of injury. I did a little bit of research on this today, Jeff. I looked around to see what was the cost of head and neck restraints. There was no fewer than 5 companies out there that make head and neck restraints. It's less than $700 now. Me personally, no racer likes to spend money they don't feel they need to spend. But is my life, or is, you know, one of my friends' life that I'm helping work on a race car, or you know, is their life worth $700 extra dollars? I think if they went ahead and spent that extra $700, some of the folks that we have lost in the past would still be here with us. I know after talking to her dad today, she did not have a head and neck restraint on, and he point blankly told me, Jeff, no less than a butt about it, that he feels that if she would have had one, that she would probably still be here today. Not saying she might not have had no injuries, but she'd definitely still be here with us today. So, you know, I mean, you know, I understand where he's coming from. He sees the point now, maybe that, you know, that was a forethought that, you know, maybe should have happened. But hopefully, you know, he can take this and use this as maybe become an advocate of other racers and stress the importance, you know, of what needs to be done before you climb in that race car and you ride on the racetrack for the very first time.
Yeah, unfortunately, all the advances that have been made in safety in racing come from the evolution from serious injuries and deaths and things like that. And you got to ask yourself, how long is this going to go on before the sanctioning bodies, the tracks, and people like that make basic safety equipment like that mandatory. And basic safety equipment is not just any seat or not just any belt, and not just any roll cage. I don't care if it is an entry-level car. There's no level where taking shortcuts on safety is an option.
You're right. Yeah, I saw some pictures of this race car, and it looked like it was constructed very well. So I don't think there was no issues with there. It did crumble to a point to take absorb some of the energy from where the car hit head on into the wall. So I don't think there's no issues with that part of it, Jeff. The impact that we're seeing now from these drivers, from the side-to-side action and the slamming of the head forward. I watched quite a few videos today, going over there and refreshing my mind exactly, what these head and neck restraints was designed to do. And you remember, Jeff, back a couple of years ago, we had Trevor Ashland on here, and there is no better person than Trevor when it comes to the way these head and neck restraints are designed and supposed to work. He worked for all these major different companies designing seat belts, help with the shoulder harness, the shoulder belt on these cars, so that when you slam on brakes, they lock them in place. He was one of the people that worked on that design. Talked to Trevor for just a little bit, and unfortunately he wasn't able to come on the show tonight, but he did emphasize, just like you was talking about the seat belt and the seat, if you don't properly wear the head and neck restraint, you're going to have some issues again with that. So if you go out and you purchase a head and neck restraint, please do everything you can do fit to exactly the way the instructions tell you to mount it.
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. Sometimes it's just a matter of reading the instructions. It's that simple. They're usually pretty clear.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we're going to go ahead and take our first break for the evening, and we're going to get Frank Kimmell on the line, and we're going to talk a little bit about overall general safety of a race car, the do's and the don'ts. So don't go nowhere, folks. We're going to take a quick pit stop. S.T.A.R.S Radio, your shortcut auto racing source. That's the Zeus Radio Network or Racers Reunion Radio. We'll be right back.
Auto Racing Source production of the Zeus Radio Network or Racers Reunion Radio. Well, we want to welcome someone we've had here multiple times in the past, and that's Frank Kimmell, Sr. Frank, welcome back to S.T.A.R.S Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, Frank, we wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about safety tonight, and as someone who had the opportunity to be around your safety crew and your inspection team that you had for your Street Stock series, there was none better. And, I've been involved in this for a long time on the short tracks. So I felt one of the best people that I could get on here and talk a little bit about overall safety, and some of the do's and some of the don'ts would be to get a hold of you. Frank, tell us a little bit about, if you were starting out as a beginner racer, some of the things that you would like to emphasize to some of these young racers, and not necessarily young racers, just beginning, rookie racers, I guess is a better word to put. Some of the things that they really need to look at when they're starting to build their race cars.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things, but I mean, it's just amazing when we started doing the Street Stock deal that how many people I found that didn't really know how to do seat belts. The mounting of the seat is so important, and the old days of you wanted the seat to move when it got hit by an impact on the side or something is wrong. You want the seat to move with the roll cage, but the seat has to be mounted very, very securely. And in my division, I saw it, and in the short tracks I see, and of course the tragedy that happened this past weekend with the mini stock car and the front wheel drive car, and I don't know what exactly happened with her. Of course, I'd love to hear exactly what caused her injury, and so that we can learn from it and move forward from that. But probably the most important things is how you mount your seat. You can have a $2,500 new Butler-built full containment SFI NASCAR quality seat, and if you put it in the car wrong, it's not going to do you any good. And the same thing with the belts. I mean, the seat belts, and even up to my very last race I had, some of my most veteran racers I walked by, and I guess over the winter or something where they took the belts out and then put them back in, they didn't get reinstalled properly. And, they make diagrams. They have it online. If you buy a set of used belts that look really good and that are nice and soft and pliable, and you want to use them, which I don't have any problem with that. When I started racing, I never had a new seat belt for probably 20 years. So, but you got to make sure the belts didn't have any tears or any frays in the webbing, of course. But mounting them in the car is by far the most important thing. And you don't want a tremendous amount of lead left when it goes through your shoulder harness. I see a lot of people that will run that wide belt all the way down to the floor or all the way back to the package tray or something like that, which is, I really don't remember the exact number, but for every inch of material under a hard impact, it will stretch like a quarter of an inch. So I don't know if that's the right number or not, but it is very similar to that. And so if you think about that, if you got 10 inches of material between the mounting point and your shoulders, and you hit something, that thing could stretch as much as 1 or 2 inches, 3 inches maybe, and then your belts are loose. So, and then you have an injury. So, making those belts, the mounting points as close to the body that you can, the proper width, so that they're not gathered in. The lap belts should be mounted so that you can still pivot, and so you need a double shear type system in the bottom where you can tighten the boat up and then back it off a half around so that thing can still swivel back and forth so it can move with your hips. All this is explained very thoroughly in whatever Impact, Simpson, whatever type of belts you use, but people need to really start paying attention how they use those.
Well, Frank, I know with the Street Stock series, a lot of guys run the various types of head and neck restraints. What is your opinion on the head and neck restraints at a beginner class like this was a stock 4-cylinder front-wheel drive class? Do you think that they're traveling fast enough that they need some kind of head and neck restraint?
Yeah, my son started in mini cups, and he had a Hans device. And anytime you have shoulder harnesses in a car, you need to have a head and neck restraint of some sort. The go-karts that are open cockpit that don't have belts, then I think the horse collar is probably adequate and probably the proper thing to use. But that horse collar is only to be used, in my opinion, when you don't have shoulder harnesses. When you have shoulder harnesses and your body's, your chest and your shoulder area is being, detained in the car by belts, then you need to have your neck and your head supported by something too. And I sit in on a big forum up at one of the PRI shows right after Earnhardt's passing and his death at Daytona, and I didn't know what I was really listening to. It was very interesting, but they were talking about the change of direction speed is what's dangerous. Hitting something at 180 and you slow down to 120, then you have a change of direction of say 20 mile an hour. Well, his change in direction speed from where he hit the wall and then continued on down the racetrack was 42 or 43 mile an hour. So if you've seen a go-kart or if you've seen a mini cup or if you've seen a little mini sprint that's running over 20, 30 mile an hour, you better have them straightened in with a good head and neck restraint system. And, those things have got to be done properly too. And they got to be, mounted properly. And if you're using one of the belted systems that go around your chest or whatever, that should be all adjusted properly. And, everybody says, oh, they're expensive. You can buy Hans for $500-600. Yeah, that's pretty expensive. But today's world, that's about one set of tires for most divisions. So, it's very, very important.
I agree there, Frank. Tell us a little bit about window nets. I know that watching your safety inspection team at your races, window nets seem to be a troubled spot for quite a few racers. Tell people about the proper mounting of those.
Well, for most people, and I've been guilty of it over the years too, you'll use a piece of, quarter-inch solid plate or solid bar stock or something like that to hold the window net in. And honestly, a strong individual can grab that window net and probably yank it out of the car. Well, that I jokingly, and actually I did it on purpose to kind of emphasize we put on our rules that it should stop a 10-pound bowling ball. Well, your head weighs a lot, and, you got a helmet on top of that, and then you slap the wall at one of these tracks that's got a 6-foot wall or 5-foot wall. Well, normally the wall stops your head from hitting, will stop your head. And that's really bad. I mean, over the years, I think we've seen some really good racers that have been injured very badly or even killed when their head made contact with the concrete wall. And so that window net on the side, if you're not going to keep it tight, I wouldn't even have it in there. I think it's a waste of time. I think that you've got to support it properly. I think NASCAR now is using a 3/4-inch bar that's, so for people that don't know, that's steering shaft material. That's 125 wall thick. And that's what they're using for the top and bottom bar. And, it's mounted very securely to the roll cage and then very securely up to the top of the halo bar. And it's also very, very tight. I mean, my ARCA cars now, it's actually a technique to get them to strap up because they are so tight that it's actually difficult to get them to latch. But if they're not going to be tight, they're not really doing much good.
Yes, sir. I agree. I have done it on many occasions myself. Used probably bars that probably was not the best thing to use for that. But you guys with your safety team, you really taught a lot of us racers and crew members, the correct way to mount stuff and to do different things. And I know I'm appreciative, and I learn a lot just by rolling our race car through your tech line. You try to learn the first time so you don't have that same mistake when we come back through there again. Some people didn't always get that point across. I had the same problem. Frank, let's talk. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things I tell people all the time, and we're all, we've all worked for a living in race cars, and I was fortunate enough the last few years to be able to drive a race car for a living, so I was one of the lucky ones. But for the most part of us that go to work on Monday, you can't afford to hit the wall on a Saturday night and break a leg or injure your head or anything like that, because you've got to be at work on Monday to make money so that you can take care of your family and the last thing, take care of the race cars. So, just how important is it? And, just a couple extra nights in the shop over the winter, during the week, or whatever, to really properly mount those seats. I just got done mounting an hour ago, a full containment seat and an Acura Integra for a guy here that runs here on the local quarter mile. And, it just doesn't take that long to do it properly.
That's awesome there, Frank. And it sounds like this is the same type of race car that was probably being run down in Florida this past weekend. I know she was in a Nissan Sentra.
Very similar, I'm sure.
So let's talk a little bit about fuel cells and proper mounting of fuel cells. I know that was another big issue with a lot of different race cars.
Yeah, I think, we always make a containment system that goes around the fuel cell also. The cells that you buy now that the economy racer has to use, they do a really nice job. It's miraculous that we have as much luck with them without having any major catastrophes with fire, of course. But a person has to understand, that's a sheet metal can. And I see a lot of guys over the years that have run sheet metal screws or maybe a 1/4-inch screw just through the flange and bolt it to the band itself, instead of running, some 1x1 box tubing around the bottom of the cell. We require 2 1-inch straps that goes onto the bottom all the way around it. It's also a nice place to be able to support the car and things like that. So, if you get run over or something, you run over a tire, somebody's broke a tire or broke a wheel off the car and you run over it, which we've seen it happen at every short track across the country. If they hit just a standard can, they're going to crush it, and it's no different than a cup or a can of Pepsi or something. When you crush it, the fluid's going to come out somewhere, and unfortunately, if you're lucky, it just comes out the overflow, and that wouldn't be too big a deal. But sometimes with these cheaper cells, they'll split. They'll break the lid off of them or something like that. And it may not even be a bad wreck. It may just be something like you run over, and next thing you know, you got fuel going everywhere. And guys should take a little extra time. put a strapless 1x1 box tubing all the way around the sail. We use 2 of them, and then we use 2 straps on the top to keep it from coming out the top of the the container. So that's another thing. Everybody always asks you if you get scared when you drive a race car. The only thing that's ever bothered me is fire, and none of us want to have to live through something like that.
Guys, this is Jeff. Let me break in here just a minute. I'm getting chats from several angles here, and there's one coming off Facebook, Frank. Gentleman asked a question about if you know of, would you design, or do you have any information about designing a fuel cell for a front-wheel drive car? He says the standard fuel cell won't work with a fuel-injected car. Do you have anything relative to that coming down the pike, Frank?
Oh, there already is out there. There already is cells that, they have electric fuel pumps in them.
Okay.
So, that, if you, ATL, Fuel Safe, any of the premium fuel cells right now have cells out that have fuel pump, the electric fuel pump, mounted right with them. So, that's very simple to get. You just, I would say go online, look at Fuel Safe or, ATL, any of the major brands, and, I think the big brand right now is Waterman, that's in the NASCAR series. And I'm sure they all have, pumps and stuff that will accommodate the front wheel drive fuel injections.
Another comment or question coming off of chat, it has to do with safer barriers at tracks as far as making, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Frank, before you came on, that we felt like it should be mandated that every division of which you reiterated should be required to have a head and neck restraint and the right kind of seat and all that. This gentleman brings up the issue of safer barriers at all tracks.
Well, that would be nice. That would really be nice. But in today's world, if you flip your head over and you become a promoter or a track owner, who we all know the trilogy that the track owners are going through right now with not making money, not getting enough fans in the stands to pay for things that need to be done. So these people are for the most part, everybody's scraping every penny to make it work. So the reality of a safer barrier around a complete racetrack on a short track is probably not going to happen. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but I'm just saying that you got to understand, in order to do this, the track promoter and owner needs to make a little money or at least break even. So that's going to be a difficult thing to get done. I do believe when you have, some protruding things into the racing area or something like that, you need to stack some tires on in front of it, and which most tracks do. But as I said, and you said on our drivers meeting, we as drivers are responsible for ourselves. And, if you properly mount that seat and you mount your belts and you wear a good head and neck restraint and you've got a nice helmet on, and you wear them tight. I mean, most people do not tighten their belts up tight enough. They get in the car and I'll watch them and they'll strap the lap belt without hardly any problem at all. And I want to tell you, when I put my lap belt on, it's hard to get hooked. I mean, I have to physically get all the air out of myself and sink down in the seat and then latch it. And then normally I'll have a crew member reach to the right side and grab the belt and pull it even tighter. And, that crotch belt, a lot of people run the crotch belt over the front of the seat. That's not doing any good whatsoever. That crotch belt needs to be tight against your body. You should be using at least a 6-point harness, which would be 2 belts between your legs instead of the one. And it should be very properly mounted and very tight when I think a lot of times, my son used to get so aggravated with me when I put him in even the mini-cup car and how tight I make him run the belts. And he hit at Lake Erie Speedway one time, got spun, hit in the right rear and spun into the fence. He hit dead flush. And I thought, and if anybody seen the mini-cup car, his feet were right against the front of the car. And he didn't injure either leg, really didn't get a bruise from it or nothing. And I completely believe that it's because I was so strong on him and hard on him and how tight those belts have to be. But that crotch belt needs to really be done properly, and it needs to be at least a wide belt between your legs, and it needs to come back and be angled towards the rear of the car so that it's pulling your butt back into the seat. I see so many that's running that just a fifth, strap, and they run it out in the front of the seat and go down. Well, you might as well just throw it away. It's not doing any good. But it's got to be pulling down and back.
Oh, very, very good.
As you can tell, I could preach on this stuff a lot, and I hope I'm not being too preachy.
Oh, and absolutely not, Frank. That's why we wanted you to come on here, was so that we could talk about this stuff and put this information out. We're going to have Randy Lajoie on here in a little bit, and he's going to talk about the containment seats and the proper mounting of the seats itself, and go a little more in depth than what you did about the seats. Frank, as I said, the safety inspection that you guys put one of your race cars that was going to be racing in your series was just phenomenal. And I would like, if it's okay with you, I would like to put a link up to your safety inspection sheet for racers to use this maybe as a guideline to go down and look and say, this is the kind of stuff that Frank was talking about when he was on S.T.A.R.S radio. So this is the kind of stuff that I need to be looking at with my own race car. Is it okay if we post a link to that there, Frank?
Yeah, that would be fine, but I would strongly suggest everyone use do the mounting for the manufacturing of the belts and of the seats. These
yes,
guys will teach you. I mean, of course, my rules are out there, and people are more than welcome to see them. My number's on it, so they're welcome to call. But it's we don't want, none of us want any injuries, and definitely not a tragedy like we had this past weekend. And I really believe that we can all but eliminate a lot of these things by really, really doing things properly inside the car. And the tracks need to look, just like the last gentleman said, that they need to look, and when they have a troubled area with something that's not going to move, that's the big thing. Those big old U tires, you'll hit them, but they move, and that's good. But if you've got a concrete barrier or light pole in the middle of your racetrack, or it's got to have a lot of tires around it so it cushions that blow when you get to it. And my local tracks here, I've got my name marked all over the guardrails, the walls, the concrete. I did everything you can hit, so I know how nice it is when it gets a little bit.
Again, Frank, that's just great advice for our listeners and new racers just getting involved. And Frank, I want to thank you for taking some time and coming on the show tonight and talking a little bit about this very, very important subject line here. We continue to stress safety here on our radio show, and I've been taught a lot by guys like you and Randy Lajoie about the proper way to do things. And I'm talking, I'm someone that's been around racing for a long time myself. So, thank you.
We can all learn. That's right.
Absolutely. And, if there's anything we can do to help you guys out, and best of luck in your racing endeavors in 2014 there, Frank.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you all. Thanks for having us on. And just want to, my family and all of us, here at Frank Kimmell Racing and everything, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the little girl. That's, nobody wants to do something like that. So, hope them the very best at this very trying moment for those guys.
Absolutely. Jeff Gilder, Frank Kimmell just put out some, very, very valuable information for our listeners. And, I had seen the same message you saw about the safer barriers. I understand what Frank is saying there about the safer barriers because of the expense it's going to take to be able to afford that. I would love to see tracks do take any necessary steps that they can to do to help prevent any of these incidences happen. I don't think anything as far as the racetrack itself had anything to do with her accident this past weekend, but just please, folks, out there listening, please take the advice of someone like Frank Kimmell. The man is a legend in ARCA racing, and he's raced about everything you can possibly race. His advice is very, very valuable, and he knows exactly what he's talking about. Folks, we're going to go ahead and take another break. We come back. We're going to have Randy Lajoie of Lajoie Seatings on here, and we're going to talk a little bit about proper mounting of your seats and seat belts. So don't go nowhere, folks. S.T.A.R.S Radio, your short track auto racing source for production of the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. We'll be right back.
For it's the only life I've ever known.
Welcome back, S.T.A.R.S Radio, your short track auto racing source for production of the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. Well, folks, we got Randy Lajoie on the line, but I want to read a text message that I just got. I was kind of surprised when I got this, but it is a good deal. And this comes from Brad Keselowski. And he's talking about the Saturday night short track racing. What he says here is that everybody knows the risk when they strap into a race car at any level. The short tracks are tough, and they can be a particularly scary place, even for guys in our level of racing. Brad says, I don't run those races for a reason, because I am worried about some of the safety not being enforced at Saturday night style short tracks. I do wish that promoters would step up and be a little more proactive instead of reactive when something happens at a racetrack. Listen, folks, please do everything you can do as far as safety comes before you strap yourself in a race car, because the life that you save could be your very own. Awesome statement from somebody of the power of Brad Keselowski, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely true, man.
So
give him my number.
There you go.
Now we want to welcome Randy Lajoie in here. Welcome in here, Randy.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing great. Randy, do you agree with what Brad just said?
Absolutely. And it's sad. I mean, I was at Carolina Speedway a couple weeks ago. Lower four-cylinder class, similar to the girl that got killed in Florida. I seen a kid sitting in the car. His elbows were tucked inside of the seat. So obviously the seat was a little wide on him. And I said something to the mom, and she got mad at me for suggesting that he was not safe. And I was like, wow, okay. And I talked to him again later on. I said, well, I didn't mean to make you mad, but, you know, it was good enough for the guy we bought the car from. Well, you know, no, he's not. So my Safer Racer has been out there. I'm doing an Indiegogo fundraiser, crowd raiser right now on Indiegogo. I'm going Friday night to Western Carolinas here, Brasstown, I think it's called, Tri-County Raceway, and Saturday night, Smoky Mountain Speedway with the old man engineer and Ray Cook, Spring Nationals. I'm doing a couple of those. I've already been to 8 tracks this year, and you know what? I'm trying. And I like what Brad said, but you know what? Like I said, I need to get his number because he can help me do this. And it's amazing how the lack of support that I've received, and they all tell me I'm doing a good job, you know, so that's okay. I'm slowly doing it. I'm a race fan. I hate seeing people get hurt. I hate that a family in Florida has to go on to a funeral and then bury their daughter. That's really, come on. I mean, this is, you know, it makes me mad.
I agree, Randy, and that's why we wanted to get you on the show a little bit tonight, and we have a few minutes left here, but we want to talk a little bit about seat, proper mounting, and the kind of seat that you need for the different levels of racing. So explain to our listeners a little bit about that.
You know, any kind of containment is needed. Everybody has an upright seat. You know, I mean, it's a high back seat that you held by your ribs and your hips, and that's it. Well, you know, we've noticed that those type of seats really aren't that strong, and you start to move. Well, so you contain the movement. You put some aluminum around the shoulders, around your head, and then limit your head and your shoulders from moving along with your hip. Guys are doing a lot better. I mean, being a crash test dummy myself and hitting things, hitting them hard and bending my seat, I realized that, golly, I need to make this a lot stronger. And that's what we've learned in the industry, and it just hasn't bled down to the short track series enough. I mean, there's bolt-on kits. People can go and buy a bolt-on kit to what they have, you know, $200, $300, a head and neck restraint, $500, and know that they're going to come back home hopefully on Saturday night without, you know, visiting a hospital or worse yet. You know, I mean, it's a $1,000 investment for a bolt-on kit for containment, a good head and neck restraint. I mean, guys and gals, that's something that should be put up number one. If I could supply it to everybody as far as part of a containment seat, golly, I would. But normally I usually go to a racetrack and I'll put on a safer kit for one of the worst unsafe cars there. I'll pick the person out, bring the car to me, and I'm going to make you safer. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's not easy doing this, and you know, I'm one voice, and I'm barking as loud as I can.
Well, Randy, that's some great advice, and we had Frank Kimmell on here a few moments ago, and he was talking about the safety nets and the proper way to mount your belts.
Absolutely right.
Your
seatbelt's a 7-point system. The less the occupant moves, the better they're going to be. There's no data anywhere in the world that says that the occupant that did not move got hurt. There hasn't been any data. Every time a person gets hurt is because they move. So let's keep, at the end of the day, I'm a 200, right now I'm about a 240-pound man that when I'm strapped into a seat, I'm a bowl of Jell-O. And I'm trying to contain that. Most of these guys are jockeys, but they're still 150, 180 pounds. And you're trying to contain that with seatbelts that are going to stretch, so you're automatically going to move. People don't realize that, in a 35-mile-an-hour impact, your hips move 3 to 5 inches forward in the seat, just because of the belt stretch and your water mass of your body. It just changes all over the place. So, we're just trying to contain that bowl of Jell-O.
Randy, you said something that I was getting ready to ask you. You answered part of it. A lot of people have the misunderstanding that in some of these beginner classes, these intermediate classes, they're not going fast enough to get hurt. And I watched some of the tapes that Trevor Ashline and those guys did. I forget the name of that video they had out there several years ago, but they had some great tests in there with dummies and everything, and to show you just how much your body can move at an impact at 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. And if you would, just talk about that a second.
Well, one of the good things for our industry, it happens to be these GoPro cameras, because, everybody and their brother wants one. They all mounted in the car. They say, look at that, I'm looking at this window, look at that area, I just passed that guy. Well, they're finding out that when they hit things, they're moving all over the place. So they're having to buy a better seat. Not necessarily on mine, but, they're buying better seats because of what they see with these GoPro cameras. And like I said, all you're doing is trying to contain that bowl of Jell-O. And like I said, the doctors tell me we're 40, 60% fluids. Okay, that's fine. So that's gonna move when you try to contain
it. You're right there, Randy. And with the cameras and the technology, everything keeps getting a little bit better every year, and hopefully with all these innovations that's coming around, that we're going to get to the point where these tragedies like we had this past Saturday night is going to get less. Hopefully the racers are going to say, well, okay, instead of putting this extra part on my race car or buying that extra set of tires, let's buy this head and neck restraint. Let's make sure we got a good containment seat to keep me in place in there. And I talking to some people this morning, and the first thing I said, a good containment seat and head and neck restraint makes all the difference in the world. And this young lady did not have no head and neck restraint there, Randy. And it was not a containment seat. It was just a basic aluminum 125 seat for looking at the pictures I saw.
Yes.
It looked like the seat held up pretty good from what I understand.
Usually on a frontal impact, you're coming out of the seat. Because, it's not on an angular. It was a frontal, very small right front hit, almost head on. So, it wouldn't have mattered. It should have been better if she went forward, because usually it would have broke her neck if she would have went sideways, because the seat would have given out. He said head and neck restraint, she would still be here, more than likely. It's amazing that moms, dads, we need to put that first on all the lists. And I know it's $1,000. They probably wouldn't spend $1,000 for the season. But then again, would they spend it now? I'm sure we buried my mom a couple of years ago, and it was a $7,000 funeral. So then again, $1,000 doesn't look too bad.
You're absolutely right. Well, Randy, we want to thank you for taking some time and coming on here tonight and talk a little bit about seats and proper mounting of the seats and everything. And, folks, if you want to find out more about them, you can go to Randy's website, Lajoie of Seating. Go there, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. They have some testimonials and stuff on there, people that's been involved in accidents that was running Randy's seats. And we personally run a Randy Lajoie seat. Randy, you got any parting words for our listeners out there?
Well, like I said, it's an Indiegogo site. My Safer Racer program. I love people to join it and donate a little bit. I'm on the road or I'm pedaling, and cheap. The fuel's not getting any cheaper. Hotels aren't either. But I'm trying to pass the word as best as I can.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Randy. Jeff Gilder.
Okay, thanks, guys.
We had two great people on here tonight talk a little bit about racer safety and some of the stuff that needs to happen if you're a rookie racer, just getting involved in it. Just tremendous advice.
Yeah, it is great advice, and we have to check out Randy's Safer Racer program on Indiegogo there and see what that's all about. We'll give that a push if we can. I didn't realize he was on Indiegogo, but that's a crowdsource funding entity there that you can, if you go to Indiegogo, you can search and find Safer Racer. I'm sure I haven't looked it up yet, but that should be pretty easy to do. If you're interested, go there, make a donation, help him out, because he is and always has been really one of the guys at the forefront of this.
You're right there, Jeff. It is a great program. Anything that you can do to help out, and while we're talking about helping out, Jeff, they have set up a memorial fund for this young lady, and you go to funds.com. Wait a minute, let's see. It's actually called fundsazr.com. And you go in there and you can just type her name in there, and we'll put a link up on this. And Jeff, they had a goal of $5,000 that they wanted to raise, and as of right now, and this was, I believe, was just started today or late yesterday afternoon, they have $4,265. And that website again is fundraiser.com. You go in there, you can type her name in there, and this money goes to help support the family with all the cost that comes along with when you're having to bury someone and the various things. And her services is going to be held at Forest Meadows Funeral Home on 23rd Avenue in Gainesville, Florida, on Wednesday, the 26th, from 5 to 7 p.m. There'll be a graveside service held Thursday at 327 at a cemetery in My Canopy, Florida at 11:30. Folks, if you want to find out a little bit more about it, there's a Pray for Niokoa Johnson on Facebook. You can go there, follow everything that's going on. And again, we send our condolences out to the family from everybody here at Racers Reunion and S.T.A.R.S Radio. We cannot stress the safety issue no more, and we're more than willing to talk about anything safety related that folks want to talk about, but we don't like talking about it every time because we've had an accident and we lost somebody or somebody that was permanently injured. So folks, please take this safety stuff very seriously. And if there's anything that we can do, you got any questions, feel free to give me a call. My phone number is 843-680-6956. It's all over Facebook. I am on Facebook, Jerry Smith. You can go to the Racers Reunion website, stock car side. You go in there, you can ask a question, if you need to get a hold of me. I'm very approachable, very easy to be tracked down, and we'll try to get you in touch with the right people if you got a question. Frank Kimmell's website is out there on his website, streetstocknationals.com, frankkimmell.com. Randy Lajoie's information is on his website, lajoieseating.com. So any kind of information you need to find out is out there available. Jeff, we appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening to the show. Again, with heavy hearts, tonight's show is dedicated to Niokoa Johnson, who lost her life at Bubba Speedway in her very first race this past Saturday night. We're not going to have a military unit of the week. Our person of the week is this young lady. We want to say good night and God bless, and we'll see everybody back here next week.